Yo, what's good guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we're checking out, is meat really that bad? You know, we all love meat. I love meat. Um, and it's probably one of the best foods ever made. You feel me? Like whoever invented, I'm tripping, not invented, I just love meat. I don't know about you, but I think it's healthy, so I eat it. Like I could say maybe every day or every other day I have meat. I don't like the raw type, so I'm good with cooked. Yeah, so let's check out, is meat really bad for you? I mean, it's not really gonna convince me to stop eating meat because it's like I'm just addicted maybe. But yeah, if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, let's watch.
Food is arguably the best thing about being alive. No other bodily
Yep.
pleasure is enjoyed multiple times every day and never gets old. It's an expression of culture, our parents' love, and a means of celebration or comfort. That's why it hits a special nerve when we're told we should change what and how we eat to fight rapid climate change. One of the
Oh.
most delicious foods, meat, gets the worst press. It doesn't help that the topic is really hard to properly research yourself and that debates get emotional quickly. But clearly, science can give us an answer. The reality is, well, it's complicated. Let's take a look at 3 climate arguments against meat that are used a lot and see what happens.
Ooh. Yo, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I be feeling like I'm a bad guy when I eat meat because, animals. But, like, at the same time, I'm like, bro, like, you taste good, man. Like, I'm pretty sure if a lion saw me if we're in the forest together and he had the chance to eat me, he'd eat me, so. But like some animals, like dogs and cats, those are like cool. Those are like, I'd say those are like human best friends. You can't eat those. But I mean, for people who eat them, go ahead. I don't blame you. But yeah, I just like cows and like the other four-legged creatures that are not cats or dogs.
1. Does our diet really play that big a role in climate change? Feeding billions of people is impossible without causing emissions. Even if someday we have zero-carbon tractors, refrigerators and cookers running on renewable energy, and electric trucks to move our food, there are still unavoidable emissions. Rice emits methane. We cut down forests to make room for pastures and crops. And we emit nitrous oxide when we use fertilizers and manure. Worldwide food production is responsible for about 26% of all human-made greenhouse gas emissions, which is
Damn.
unfortunate since food is not optional. While 26% doesn't sound that bad, it means that even if we extinguished all other sources of emissions today, the emissions from food alone would still use up our entire carbon budget by 2100. So no matter how we twist and turn it, food is a real driver of climate change.
Ooh, but I still love food, bro. Like, you can't tell me, you know, I wouldn't be really mad if they started making that artificial food. I mean, most of the food we eat anyways is artificial, but because, I don't know, I guess we've had so much artificial stuff nowadays. We just now you just eat something and it just I don't mind artificial food, but natural is natural. Nobody hates natural food. I like natural food, but artificial, if that can at least help the planet in some way, I'll take it. But I'm not gonna eat fake meat, like grass that tastes like meat. Because I've heard there's plants that they're making that taste like meat. So I'm like, no, well, I'm not that kind of person.
Still, emissions from different food items vary a lot. How do things look when we compare their footprints separately?
Avocados are
Food's
that
climate
bad?
impact is most often based on life cycle assessments, an analysis that looks at all the emissions of a product throughout its existence, from production to transportation, packaging, use, and waste management. In the most detailed meta-analysis of life cycle assessments to date, beef emissions stand out at the top. On average, a kilogram of beef emits 71 kilograms of CO2 equivalents. Lamb is also high at 40 kilograms. Pork emits 12 and poultry 10 kilograms. At the bottom
Oh,
we have lots of plant-based foods. Potatoes, for example, emit around 150 times less than beef. The most important aspect of food isn't weight though, it's nutrient density. A kilogram of beef would keep you alive much longer than a kilogram of potatoes. So how does the ranking change if we compare emissions per calorie or protein? Not much. Animal protein is still the
ooh.
most costly for the environment, and beef
And
and
it
lamb
tastes the
are
best.
also outliers in emissions per calorie. But is this fair? After all, not all beef is the same. There are all sorts of ways to rear cattle, from pure
Oh yeah, I don't like
grass-fed
red
to
meat.
factory farming. The worst beef comes in at 105 kilograms of emissions per 100 grams of protein, the best at only 9, a tenfold
Oh.
difference. In contrast, most other foods, especially plant-based, have a much narrower spectrum.
Yeah, but
Still,
no one
the
likes
best beef
plants.
is worse than the worst plant. Okay, but this seems promising. Can we buy the right beef and lower our emissions? Maybe by buying locally produced beef to minimize our footprint? 2. Does buying local food actually matter?
Bro, yeah, I'd be wondering that same thing, like local food, like what does that even, like where can I even find local food? Because you just go to the store and then you pick out stuff. You don't really know if it's local or not. So that's the thing I always ask myself, like like what's up? What's happening? Um, yeah, that's kind of confusing. I don't really know.
Let's stick with beef since it's such an outlier. By buying locally, you are trying to avoid emissions from transportation and packaging. But it turns out these only account for 0.5 to 2% of beef's total emissions. Actually, transport and packaging combined are only about 11% of all food emissions.
Oh, that's not that
Nearly
bad.
all
That's
food
not
transport
bad at all.
emissions are produced over the last few miles, the regional travel on the road supplying the markets and shops in your area. International food transport happens
Bro, this is
mostly
where
on
Tesla
freight ships,
comes in.
which are insanely efficient. For example, shipping 1 kilogram of avocados from South America to Europe generates about 0.3 kilograms of CO2 equivalents in transport emissions and around 2.5 kilograms overall, while 1 kilogram of beef from your local butcher will come in at 18 kilograms in CO2 equivalents at least. So even
That's
when
terrible.
shipped great distances, emissions from almost all plant-based foods cause lower emissions than locally produced animal products. Okay, so if transport doesn't play a big role, what causes the vast amounts of emissions from beef then? By far the largest share of beef emissions consists of methane released directly by the animals. While
Oh,
CO2 hangs around for
okay.
centuries, methane only stays in the atmosphere for decades. But in these short periods, it is very powerful. All in all, methane has already caused 23 to 40% of human-made warming so far. There's controversy about how bad this is exactly, and we don't want to dive in too deep here, but the way
Wait, hold on. If methane is like, what? So cows have to release it no matter what. That's kind of what I'm getting from this. So I mean, there's no fighting it, bro. I think with this Earth global warming stuff, I feel bad, but at the same time, like, I feel like, bro, the time is coming, bro. Like, Earth will have to go down at some point, and I'm not mad. Earth has had its like share. It'd be cool if it were to stick around for a while, but I'm pretty sure, like, with all this stuff, you can't change like food, bro. Humans love food. That's understood. Like, I feel you when he said, "Oh, food is something we can all enjoy." I felt that. That's what I love. Like, you can't
things
change that.
stand,
So
any
yeah.
kinds of extra emissions are not great. Still, all cows burp and fart to similar degrees. What
Yeah.
explains the spectrum of beef emissions? There are a couple of things. It makes a difference if the beef comes from a dairy herd or one dedicated to beef production. 44% of the world's beef comes from dairy cows, sharing its footprint with dairy products. Dairy cows tend to get higher quality feed, which makes them grow faster and emit less methane. Geography also plays a role because it determines which farming methods are possible. The worst factor by far is the destruction of forests for farmland. Not only does this release the CO2 that was bound in the flora, it sets free carbon that was stored in the soil and destroys its ability to store it in the future. This aspect accounts for much of the range of emissions in beef. The worst emitters are farms burning down rainforest for farmland, especially in Brazil. There is a sinister truth hidden here. The more animals suffer, the better they are in terms of climate change because they are way more efficient. They use less land and their food is brought right to them, and so they grow faster and don't expend energy on things like walking. Cattle in a factory farm that never get to roam pastures can sometimes be less destructive for the climate than cattle grazing peacefully on a formerly...
Nah, that's all cool, but that's not, you know, like, at least treat them in a humane way, bro. That's kind of scary. I would not, like, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it makes it sound like a good thing, which, I mean, it is for the earth, but I'm pretty sure if any of you were animals, you wouldn't want to be caged in the, you wouldn't want to be locked like that. It's like quarantine a little bit like that. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure no one likes that. So I don't know, bro. Do animals have feelings? Probably. I think they do, but man, I don't know, man. You can't convince humans to change this. Yeah, good luck with anyone who tries to change
piece
it,
of
though.
rainforest. But isn't it a bit out of touch with reality to demonize cows so much? Some of the land these animals are grazing on isn't suitable for crops anyway. By grazing on pastures, they can turn things we can't digest into food. Isn't farming animals just a smart way to make the best use of unused resources? 3. Don't cows mainly use land that we can't use for agriculture or other things? About half of the world's ice and desert-free land is used for agriculture, an area the size of the entire Americas plus China. Half of all agriculturally used land is dedicated to animals. Most of it is grassland, 65% of which cannot be converted to cropland. So pasturing animals is actually a very efficient way to use those areas since we can't grow human food there anyway. There are a couple of catches here though. While the idea of cows turning useless grass into steak is nice, it is part of a marketing lie. Even though it is so massive, pastureland alone can't support the ruminants living on it. Globally, grazing systems sustain only 13% of beef production.
I see this as a human problem. Just modify these cows and make them, I don't know, I heard, because back in, middle school, the teacher used to tell us about something like, oh, they can modify creatures. So, just modify these cows so they're perfect for the land you choose for them. I hope the meat still tastes the same because that's all I want. I want that same taste. I mean, there's people who care about their health. I do too. I don't know if they can modify these in a way that helps. That'd be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind. But then these modified things really expire so quick. I hate that.
So if we were to switch to 100% grass-fed, we'd simply have to eat much less beef. In the US, beef production would crash by some 70% if it were to exclusively rely on grass. The only way to sustain our high demand for meat is by growing crops and feeding them to our cattle. And we haven't even talked about chicken and pigs, which exclusively eat feed crops. Because of this feed demand, less than half of the world's cereals are used directly as human food. 41% is fed to animals. The same is true for soy. There's a lot of talk about Amazon deforestation for soy production, which makes us think of soy milk and tofu. But only 19%
no one likes
of global
soy milk.
production goes towards products for humans. About 77% is used to feed animals. Besides, land without...
Bro, this is what I'm telling you. Vegans be stealing animal food. 19%. Give all that to animals, like plants. Give us like 10%. We don't really need that many plants. We need more meat. We have the meats.
Food crops
Arby's.
Isn't automatically ecologically useless.
Arby's should take that clip and
use
use
around
it.
2 billion hectares. A vegan diet would free up around 3 billion hectares of land.
Oh,
We could
never
use
mind.
this land
Looks
to
like
grow
veganism
forests
is
or
good.
restore wild grasslands. Basically anything that could suck carbon out of the atmosphere. If we spared 3 billion hectares of land, it could remove about 800 billion tons of CO2 from the air over 100 years. By comparison, we emit about 50 billion tons of CO2 equivalents per year at the moment. Okay, to summarize, food is a huge driver of emissions. Meat, but
Yeah, we
especially
need
beef,
it.
is the worst food in terms of emissions. Buying
But it
locally
tastes
does
the
not have a
best.
big impact on food emissions compared to the type of food you're consuming. When it comes to beef, cattle that are grass-fed can sometimes even be counterproductive because they just need much more land. Even if you find the most environmentally friendly beef in the world, your burger still comes with a significantly higher carbon footprint than a veggie patty. You can decide for yourself what you want to do with this information.
Bro, I
In
promise you,
fact, you are
man,
always only one
I will take that burger. I
decision
will
away
take
from
that
making
burger.
a change. You could start learning a new skill or dive into a new interest today. It's up to you.
Bro, I tell you, that burger, I will eat it with pride. Like, sorry to the animals, bro, you know, I'll clap for you if that makes it better. But beef, bro, there's something about beef you can't explain. It's just like, you go a steak, you're eating rice and chicken, you're eating this and this. It tastes perfect, bro. I don't know. I hope these animals can forgive us, cause, bro, I gotta go eat something right now too. So that's crazy. I should probably be a vegan, but that would be so hard. You guys tell me if you guys are vegans. But if you made it this far, thank you and have a nice day.